I heard the following story from a wonderful rabbi named Rabbi Moshe Brisky, who was the Chabad Shliach to Agoura Hills, California. One year he brought some rabbinical students to town to help out with the high holidays. It was the Shabbat in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and the boys were walking home from the synagogue to their apartment for Shabbat lunch. When they neared the apartment, they saw a moving truck parked in front of the house opposite theirs, and on it in shiny letters was the name of the company, which took them entirely by surprise. It read, "Nice Jewish Boys Moving Company." As they got nearer, they saw a group of Israeli movers and approached them to wish them Shabbat Shalom. The guys were friendly and the boys invited them in for Kiddush and some warm food. A little while later, Rabbi Brisky came over to connect with the students and joined the by now boisterous lunch that was taking place. When the man who was moving in across the street arrived home, the young rabbinic students walked over to welcome him to the neighborhood. After chatting for a few minutes, the man says, "I'm actually Jewish. And in fact, I'm the choir conductor of a large synagogue not too far from here." The boy said, "Why don't you join us at our Shabbos lunch for some great food and company?" "Okay," he says, and he joins the Shabbos lunch with his daughter. The man and his daughter had a lovely time, and a few days later, Rabbi Brisky receives a letter of thanks from this man. "Rabbi, I want you to know that God works through you," it read. And he leaves a number. Rabbi Brisky calls him up, and the fellow explained. "A few days before moving in, I prayed to God that this would be the right move for us. I prayed that I would find a nice Jewish community, and I asked for a sign from God that He had heard my prayers. Little did I realize just how quickly that sign would show up. When the day we moved in, there you were, welcoming us with warm and open arms." A relationship developed between the rabbi and the man, and he began to come to classes. One day, Rabbi Brisky was giving a particularly challenging class on coping with difficulty, and in the middle he noticed his new friend crying softly, and he continues to cry throughout the rest of the class. Sensing the man's need to talk, he approaches him after the class, and he invites him to talk in the privacy of his office. He fell on the rabbi's shoulders, and he cried bitter tears, and after a few minutes he began telling his story. 2 years earlier, he had lost 2 of his 3 precious children in a car accident. After the tragedy, he gave up on life completely, and he fell into a very deep depression. He went to therapy, but that didn't help. And a cloud of sadness and darkness overcame him, and a divorce soon followed. He simply couldn't cope. He was angry at God, he hated living, and he decided to end his life. One night he planned to take his daughter to the movies, to spend the final night with her, and then say farewell to a miserable world. The theater he chose that evening was located in a mall in Simi Valley, and as he came into the mall, he was surprised to hear Jewish music playing. As it happens, it was Hanukkah, and some Jewish group was having a festival right there in front of the theater. Before he knew it, he and his daughter were schlepped into the dancing, and there he was, the night on which he had decided to end his life, dancing with his daughter around the menorah. And with each turn they made, he felt the lights of the menorah talking to him, telling him that there will yet be light in your life. There will be celebration and joy. Clutch the hand of your child and hang on to life. And that very night, he says, I decided I would never follow through on my plans. I decided that I would give life another try. I decided to find a new community, to rebuild my life, and to pick up the broken pieces. I chose Agoura Hills, and just before moving, I said to God, if it was you talking to me that night at the mall, sending me a sign to live on, send me another sign that you are watching over me. And there you were. Within a minute of my coming to town, you were God's welcoming committee to the community. Rabbi Brisky tried unsuccessfully to keep his emotions in check. And then something possessed him. And he went over to a drawer where he kept pictures of all of Chabad's activities and started going through the pictures. Suddenly he stopped short and he takes out a group titled Hanukkah at Simi Valley. And he saw a photo of God in action. You see, it was Rabbi Brisky and his colleagues who were there that night in Simi Valley. Back then, Rabbi Brisky and his team had a policy that they would add a new menorah lighting to their itinerary every Hanukkah. And that year they said, let's go to Simi Valley. So they called up 411, which is a number for an information center in the States, and they said, can we have the number to the mall in Simi Valley? The clerk asks, which one? They said, the mall. The clerk says, you mean the Mountain Gate Plaza Center? So they said yes, not really knowing the specifics of the area. And they received the number. They called the Plaza Center. And the clerk there asks, are you sure you want to do your Hanukkah festival here? Rabbi Brisky says, yes, of course. The people at the mall said, okay, no problem. So Rabbi Brisky made the flyers, and he sends them out to the community. And then he sends out a press release. He arranges a band, some clowns, and lots of fun. And on the night that they had organized the event, all of the rabbis from Chabad of Belgravia Hills show up to find out that the Plaza Center was actually a deserted mall and not a single store was open. You see, Mountain Gate Center Plaza in Simi Valley was getting ready to be closed down at the time. And the only place open in the entire mall was the movie theater. So the Chabad rabbis decided to move the dancing in front of the theater where there was at least a little bit of foot traffic. Maybe they'd get a few customers. A few dozen people showed up to the theater that night. The rabbis danced with just a few of them, and somewhat dejectedly left thinking to themselves that the event had been an utter failure. But little did they know that a precious life, an entire world hung in the balance that very night. And that by divine providence, they were exactly where they needed to be to help keep that flame of life alive. Dear friends, this story reminds us of the power of prayer and faith, but also of the unique ability we each possess to partner with God in creating miracles for others. It's true that God works in mysterious and wondrous ways, but we are told that He is always on the lookout for good partners. We can each become a heavenly conduit, an ambassador of divine light and love, a human candle illuminating our environment. This we do by showing up and giving our all to every moment, person, and situation that we encounter in life, recognizing and celebrating the inherent divine purpose and presence within all.